Discover 4 incredible vitamins to heartwarmingly rebuild muscle overnight. Avoid these 2 life-changing mistakes. Sarah had always believed in hard work and resilience. Living in a small Midwestern town, she poured her heart into 2 jobs to support her spirited teenage son, Jake, an aspiring track star who dreamed of winning races. He had a smile that brightened even the dreariest days, lighting up their cramped living room like sunshine piercing through a winter storm. They shared the simple joys of life, dinner by the table cluttered with notebooks, late-night talks about the future, and running together on the local track, with Jake always a few steps ahead, a burst of energy and hope. But everything changed one fateful afternoon. Jake's life, full of potential and ambition, was shattered in an instant. A reckless accident during a practice run left him with a severe injury, his dreams shattered like glass. Sarah's heart ached at the sight of him, once so vibrant, now trapped in a world of pain and frustration. As a mother, she felt helpless, like a soldier sending her troops into battle without weapons. They wrestled with the possibility of his dreams slipping away along with their financial stability. As bills piled high and her heart sank lower, Sarah found herself face to face with despair in the form of Mr. Thompson, the local wellness store owner, and a beloved war veteran. He was a sturdy man, with warm eyes and a kind smile, whose community was his lifeline. For incredible vitamins, he said, almost like a whisper, could aid muscle recovery. Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite in her heart. Could these be the answer? Determined yet skeptical, she bought those vitamins and began pouring them into Jake's daily routine. Before long, she realized she needed to take care of herself. 2 balancing jobs was one thing, but her spirit mattered just as much. The vitamins became their shared journey, each small sign of recovery a step back to the light. Jake smiled more. At times, his laughter rang through the house again, but shadows loomed. Bullying from classmates mercilessly taunted him. They didn't understand. They didn't see the fight in him. One day, while practicing on the track, a bully crossed the line. "You'll never race again," he shouted. Jake, hurt and filled with rage, felt the ground slip out from under him like he was falling into a dark abyss. Sarah's heart pounded, but she couldn't let fear take over. "Jake," she called out, grabbing her son's shoulder. "Remember who you are?" She felt the weight of all the expectations surrounding them, each unspoken word tightening her chest. Years of dreams depended on this moment. She fought against her own doubts, a fierce motherly love fighting to spark resilience in Jake. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. In that pivotal moment, their bond tightened. Sarah showed Jake that strength is more than running fast. It's standing tall against life's storms. The community had watched, their whispers of support echoing behind them, neighbors who cared, friends who lifted spirits, and parents who believed in resilience. As they gathered for a community event, a place where laughter intermingled with hope, Sarah found herself facing a choice that could reshape everything. Would she allow fear to sour their shared journey, or would she step into the light, letting love and community carry them forward? The town buzzed with warmth and camaraderie, yet uncertainty lingered like the quiet before a race. Sarah and Jake stood on the brink of transformation, each heartbeat a reminder of the road ahead, filled with both trials and triumphs. What would they discover together? The community center was alive with chatter, the scent of homemade pies and barbecued ribs wafting through the air, invoking memories of warmth and friendship. Sarah gave Jake a reassuring smile. feeling his nerves radiate like a hot flame beside her. This was their moment, a chance to be among familiar faces who had supported them through thick and thin. A local band strummed some upbeat tunes, lifting spirits as kids darted around playing tag. Laughter bounced off the walls, creating a soundscape of normalcy. Yet, in the back of her mind, Sarah couldn't shake the tension. She had seen Jake's transformation, both physical and emotional, but every smile still felt fragile, hanging by a thread. "Let us go get something to eat," she said, nudging Jake gently. His eyes flickered with hesitance. She could see him scanning the crowd. She knew the bullies could lurk anywhere, waiting for a moment to strike. But today was about celebrating progress, and she wouldn't allow fear to trump their journey. They moved through the crowd, accepting smiles and warm greetings from neighbors who had rallied around them. It was heartwarming to see how much support surrounded them, yet flickers of judgment still licked at the edges of her mind. Sarah could feel her heart race when she heard a familiar voice approach. "Hey, Jake." It was Tyler, one of his friends from school who had stood by him during the toughest moments. "You coming to track practice next week?" Jake hesitated, a shadow of insecurity flitting across his face. I'm not sure," he finally replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The thought of being back on the track both excited and terrified him. "Come on," Tyler said with enthusiasm that made Sarah's heart swell. "You're stronger than ever. We'll do it together." A soft smile broke through Jake's reservations, and in that smile, Sarah saw a glimmer of the boy who dreamed of racing, who found joy in competition, who wasn't defined by his injury. But the memory of the bully's harsh words echoed in her mind, reminding her that the road to healing was laden with obstacles. As the evening wore on, Sarah found herself chatting with other parents, sharing stories and laughter, allowing the weight on her shoulders to lift just a little. She looked over at Jake, who was now animatedly discussing sports tactics with Tyler. It was a scene she wished could last forever. Suddenly, that joyful bubble was pierced by an unexpected glance. There, standing at the edge of the gathering, was the very bully who had tormented Jake, a figure of cruelty wrapped in a bravado that no boy should wear. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The soul-sucking fear washed over her anew, and she could feel Jake's gaze drop. "Hey, look at the gimp," the bully called out, laughter erupting from those beside him. Manipulative joy twisted the air, as if mocking the very essence of their journey. Before she could react, Sarah grabbed Jake. "No more," she said, her voice steady with newfound resolve. "You are not defined by those words. Do not let them dim your light." Jake's startled eyes caught hers, and in that moment, he could either retreat into himself or draw strength from her spirit. The community buzz shifted, others noticing the ripple of tension. "Jake's not a gimp." Tyler stepped forward, his protective nature igniting a spark within Sarah. "He'll be racing again soon, stronger than ever." "Enough!" Jake exclaimed, the conviction in his voice igniting his spirit. He stood taller, his shoulders square, and Sarah felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through her chest. As her son faced the bully, she saw the boy who had fought back, the one who would not allow fear or doubt to quench his fire. In the silence that followed, the bullies exchanged uncertain glances, but Jake held his ground, grounded by the love and resilience surrounding him. Sarah's heart swelled with pride. Perhaps today, they did not only confront the past, but also began to embrace their future. What awaited them on this newfound path? Would this act of bravery open doors to more healing, or would it summon new challenges? The sense of possibility hung in the air like the last note of a fading song, and she felt it. Something significant was brewing, as if the universe had conspired to shift their fate. Yet, uncertainty loomed like storm clouds on the horizon, waiting to unleash its power. What lay ahead? Would they embrace the fight and find healing in each other? The moment seemed to stretch, suspended in time. Jake stood strong, the tension crackling around him like electricity. He could see the bully's bravado wavering under the weight of his defiance. The laughter faded, leaving a taut silence that seemed to thrum with the heartbeat of everyone present. Just as Jake felt a swell of courage, the bully's face twisted into a snarl. "You think you're tough now? Just wait until you trip and fall." He spat, but there was no certainty in his voice. Sarah watched Jake's expression shift from fear to determination, a poignant reminder of the growth he had achieved. "That's enough," Tyler said, stepping closer to Jake, his stance wide, ready to protect his friend. The support within the crowd was palpable. Whispers of encouragement traveled like a gentle breeze. Sarah's heart surged, a sense of community that felt tangible and real. "Come on, guys. Let us get back to the party," someone called out, and slowly, the crowd began to disperse, the icy grip of the bully's words thawing in the warmth of friendship. But Sarah could feel the air shift. Although they had won this moment, the real test lay ahead. Jake lowered his gaze, the confidence beginning to slip away. She slid her hand around his shoulder, gently pulling him closer. "You stood up for yourself," she whispered. "That's just as important as the victories on the track." Jake nodded, but doubt danced across his features. "What if he keeps coming back?" "The more we stand together, the easier it gets," she replied, knowing deep down it wouldn't always be simple. They would face these jerks together. As they hit the snack table, Jake grabbed a plate and piled it high with ribs and coleslaw. She couldn't help but smile at his grumbling stomach, proof that he was still a boy, ready to celebrate despite the chaos. "Want to sit down?" Sarah asked, pointing to a table that was just starting to fill with kids. Jake followed her gaze, seeing Tyler gesturing him over. He hesitated but then took a deep breath and nodded. This was good, one small step at a time. They moved away from the safety of the adults, and Tyler grinned. "Sorry about that jerk, but you handled it like a pro." Sarah couldn't help but beam with pride, wishing to capture this feeling and bottle it for the tough days ahead. "Thanks, I guess," Jake mumbled, still a little sheepish. It was clear the storm had stirred doubts within him, but each supportive interaction was like a gentle rainwater soaking into the cracked earth of his experience. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the playground outside, laughter echoed around them. Parents clapped at a round of games, capturing the happiness of the moment. For the first time that evening, Jake began to laugh, the sound joyous and pure. But just when Sarah thought they were safe, uncertainty reared its head again. She caught sight of the bully's friends whispering and pointing in Jake's direction. The sensation of twisting guts crept back, as did the fear that maybe, just maybe, the evening's peace was only temporary. "Let us go play tag," Tyler said, trying to lift Jake's spirits. The impulse to run was contagious, a freedom inviting him to join. Jake hesitated, glanced at Sarah, and for the first time, she saw a spark of hope mixed with apprehension on his face. "Go," Sarah urged softly. "You can do this." With a deep breath, Jake pushed his doubts aside. He joined his friends, racing across the grass, laughter erupting as they chased each other. Sarah watched, a mixture of pride and anxiety swelling in her chest. She felt a profound realization stir within her. Healing wasn't linear. It was a complicated dance of setbacks and leaps forward. The cheer of children playing fluttered through the air, but the shadow of tension still loomed, a reminder that the road ahead would require endless courage. Would this newfound strength carry Jake through the testing times to come? Or would old fears creep back in, threatening to shatter the peace they were striving so hard to hold onto? As Sarah wiped away a tear of joy, she knew they'd face whatever came next as long as they were together. Yet an unanswered question lingered. What would the next challenge be, waiting just beyond the horizon? Jake dashed across the playground, the grass cool beneath his feet. The thrill of running chased away lingering doubts, if only for a moment. He felt alive, untethered from the weight of yesterday's confrontation. Laughter rang out, echoing like a melody that filled the air with warmth. "Tag! You're it!" Tyler hollered, touching Jake's shoulder before sprinting away. Jake chased him, pure joy brightening his features. Each breath became easier as he lost himself in the game, the tension of the evening fading, replaced with the exhilaration that comes only from the simple joy of being a kid. But as the game progressed, Sarah's smile faded slightly. She noticed the group of bullies once more, huddled together, eyes glued to Jake. Their whispers cut through the laughter like a knife, a dark cloud gathering over the fun. Her heart raced, dread pooling in her stomach. "Sarah, watch out!" one of her friends yelled, and she turned just in time to see a wayward ball hurtling toward her. She ducked, laughter from nearby children replacing her fear for the briefest moment. But she knew that laughter was feeble against the storm brewing just beyond the edge of their game. "Simon, let us keep playing," someone yelled, pulling her back into the moment. Yet, her eyes kept drifting back to the bullies. They leaned against the fence, smirking, plotting something that felt all too familiar. "Hey, Jake," she called out, as he darted past. She waved him over, concern creeping into her voice. "Just be careful, okay? They're still watching." Jake, breathing heavily, grinned wide, blissfully unaware of the lurking threat. "I'm fine. Just having fun." He bounded back into the game, but she could see the joy flickering in his eyes, a light dimming against the shadows of fear and doubt in his mind. As they continued to play, Jake felt lighter. With every laugh, he reclaimed pieces of himself, the echoes of the bully's taunts fading in the face of friendship. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of impending worry. What happened if this night turned again? If the bullies decided they weren't done? The sound of playful shouts filled the air, but Sarah's anxiety gnawed at her thoughts. She felt protective of Jake, wanting to shield him from the storm that refused to disappear. "Oh, Jake," she whispered under her breath, hoping he wouldn't have to face that storm alone. Suddenly Tyler fell, crashing heavily into the grass. The laughter paused as he rubbed his knee, biting back tears. "I'm okay," he insisted, but his wincing expression told a different story. The bullies seized the opportunity. "Look at loser Tyler," one of them called, loud and mocking. "Can't even keep up." The laughter from their side pierced the air, darker and more menacing than before. Jake's face faltered. "Tyler, forget them." Tyler groaned, trying to stand tall despite the obvious pain. But the mood shifted, the earlier joy replaced by an unsettling weight. Sarah felt a familiar chill crawl up her spine. "Let us just ignore them, guys," she said, though doubt crept into her voice. "We can just keep playing." But under the surface, she understood. Ignoring was tougher than it sounded. Fear of confrontation hung in the air like a silent challenge. Then she noticed something in Jake's eyes, a fleeting glimpse of fear mixed with determination. He was trying to find courage again. Would this be the moment that tested him? Would he slip back into that vulnerable place, or would he rise above? As she watched Jake's south shoulder square and his jaw tighten, Sarah felt her heart race. Could this be the moment he found his true strength, or would he falter? "Hey, you guys. Let us show them what we've got," Jake shouted, his voice resonating with defiance. For a split second, it felt as if the world paused. Before anyone could answer, he turned, sprinting toward Tyler. "You okay?" Jake asked, offering a hand. A spark ignited in Sarah's heart as she saw Tyler smile despite the teasing. But could it really withstand the tempest of what was to come? The bullies approached, malice glinting in their eyes. Sarah held her breath, knowing this was just the beginning of a battle not yet fought. What would they do next? Would they go too far this time? Would Jake stand his ground or crumble under pressure? With a deep tremor of fear mixed with hope, She braced herself for whatever was about to unfold. The air crackled with tension as Jake helped Tyler to his feet. The smile on Tyler's face was brave, but Jake couldn't shake the worry that tipped on the edge of his heart. Were they really going to fight together? Did they even know what they were up against? "Let us get back in the game," Jake yelled, his voice ringing with forced enthusiasm. The others cheered, trying to lighten the mood, but everything felt different now. The echoes of the bullies' laughter hung in the air like a storm cloud, threatening to pour down at any moment. Sarah watched closely as the bullies approached, their gangly figures striding confidently across the playground. They were taller than Jake, broader too, with sneers plastered on their faces. It only took a few seconds for the boys to encircle them, closing in like predators. "Look who we have here," the tallest bully said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Super Jake and his band of losers." "How cute." Jake's grip tightened on his friends. Sarah could feel the heat of his determination radiating off him, but she could also sense the wavering uncertainty beneath it. He was about to face the thing he feared the most, the possibility of losing everything he had regained that evening. "Leave us alone," Jake said, but his voice lacked the confidence that only moments before had inspired them. It sounded more like a plea than a command. "Oh, but we're just getting started," the bully sneered, stepping closer. "What are you going to do? Run away?" Tyler's eyes widened at the direct challenge. "We're not scared of you," he shouted, trying to match Jake's earlier courage. But the moment the words left his mouth, Sarah knew just how fragile their bravery was. Laughter erupted from the bullies. They leaned closer, taking pleasure in every second of the growing fear around them. "This looks easy," another one said, grinning deviously as he edged forward. "Let us take care of our little problem, boys," Sarah whispered, knowing they had crossed a line. Her heart raced. She wanted to scream, to demand the bullies leave them alone, but her voice got lost in her throat. Instead, she stepped forward, fueled by her concern. "It's not worth it. Just walk away." But Jake was already shaking his head, his eyes locked on the bullies. "No," he replied, the certainty creeping back into his tone. "We're done letting you push us around." The bullies looked taken aback. For a moment, the bravado in Jake's voice struck a nerve. Maybe they hadn't expected this. But it wasn't long before they regained their smugness. "Ah, look at Super Jake trying to be a hero," the tallest one mocked, taking a step back, as if to assess the scene. "What's next? You going to cry to your mommy?" A hush fell over the playground. Children watched with wide eyes, sensing the crackling tension. Their laughter had vanished, replaced by the heavy anticipation of an impending showdown. Sarah felt the weight of each moment hang in the air, every second stretching into eternity. Jake's fists tightened at his sides, a mixture of fear and resolve swirling within him. He looked around at his friends for support. Sarah saw the spark of determination in his gaze. Was this the moment when he'd finally choose to stand his ground? "I'm not afraid of you," Jake finally declared, his voice steadier, gaining a slight edge. "You think you can bully us? Think again." The bullies exchanged glances, surprised by the sudden defiance, but it only fueled their anger. "We'll see about that," the tallest one spat, stepping forward with a sneering grin that predicted chaos. In that moment, Sarah knew they were at the precipice. It could either end here with Jake's bravery igniting a fire within everyone, or it could spiral out of control, shattering their spirit. She held her breath, waiting to see if Jake would take the leap into courage or fall back into fear. But as the first punch flew, everything changed in an instant. Would they emerge together, stronger than before, or would this confrontation pull them apart? With her heart pounding, she wondered just how far they would go to defend one another in the face of shadows now looming large. The first punch landed with a sickening thud, sending shockwaves through the air. Jake felt a sharp sting on his cheek as he stumbled back. A roaring laughter erupted from the bullies, but it only fueled something deeper inside him, a burning fury that he didn't know he had. "Keep fighting, Jake," Tyler shouted, his voice almost drowned out by the chaos. He was in the thick of it, grappling with one of the bullies, trying to wrestle him to the ground. The playground felt like a battleground. Screams echoed, and kids scrambled to form makeshift circles, eyes wide, hearts racing. Each punch, each shove, reverberated through the crowd. Sarah felt paralyzed, her instincts warring between breaking it up and staying out of the way. She watched as Jake regained his footing and swung back fiercely. The chaos slowed for Jake as adrenaline surged through him. He could barely see the face of his opponent, a blur of anger and arrogance, but he refused to look away. "You think this makes you tough?" Jake yelled between breaths, blood pounding in his ears. "You're nothing." His words were stronger than he felt. They echoed off the brick walls around them, a surge of defiance that again surprised even the bullies. They hesitated. Jake seized the moment, charging forward with renewed strength, pushing through the fear that threatened to collapse him. "Get off him!" yelled Sarah, finally finding her voice. She hopped toward Tyler and the boy fighting him, aiming to pull one away. But her hands were trembling, emotions tangled within her. What if she made it worse? A bully shoved Jake back, sending him tumbling to the ground. Everything went quiet for a brief second, just the sound of Jake's breath, panting on the grass. He looked up to see Tyler wrestling fiercely, sweat gleaming on his brow, as he fought not just for himself but for all of them. What happened next felt like a slow-motion replay. Sarah's heart raced as she spotted a third bully sneaking up behind Tyler, his fists clenched. "Tyler! Look out!" she shrieked, the panic ripping from her throat. Tyler whirled around just in time, managing to dodge the blow. The bullies were scrambling now, caught off guard by the fierce resistance they weren't prepared for. In that moment, it clicked for Jake. They could do this together. "Let us show them what we're made of," he yelled, rallying his team. One by one, they found their courage, charging forward as a unit. The herd mentality took over, and even Sarah could feel a flicker of bravery ignite within her. She faced the bullies, fists clenched, wanting to fight for her friends. But amidst the chaos, doubt crept back in. What if they lost? What if someone got hurt? The risk felt monumental. As punches flew, and shouts drowned in the noise. Sarah's and Jake's eyes locked for a split second. She could see the determination in his stare. It lit up the swirling shadows of fear, but just then, another punch thrown wildly by one of the bullies found its mark, hitting Tyler squarely in the jaw. The sound echoed in Sarah's chest, leaving her breathless. Tyler crumpled to the ground, disoriented and gasping. Heart racing, she felt rooted to the spot, while chaos spun around her. Would they really be able to keep fighting? Would they lose their solidarity? As the turmoil continued, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, how far would they go for each other? And would they still be standing when the dust settled? Jake pushed himself off the ground, determination flooding his veins. He glanced at Tyler, who was still trying to catch his breath, and felt something shift inside him. They had come too far to back down now. With renewed resolve, he shouted, "Everyone, keep fighting. We can't let them win." Fueled by Jake's words, Sarah pushed through her fear. She charged toward the closest bully, her heart hammering in her chest. The feeling was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. It was as if the world around her faded away. All that mattered was standing up for her friends. "Get up, Tyler," she yelled, desperate for him to rise. He blinked, shaking off the daze, and nodded. That brief moment of connection sparked a fire in him too, and he climbed back to his feet. The bullies were still wary, but they quickly regrouped, trying to hold on to their momentum. One of them launched himself at Jake, who sidestepped just in time, feeling exhilaration as he avoided the blow. Adrenaline surged through him, each heartbeat ringing loudly in his ears. "What's wrong? Can't handle a fair fight?" Jake taunted, his voice cutting through the noise. He was aware of the kids around him, their faces watching, open-eyed, waiting for something to happen. Jake's challenge had a ripple effect. Kids who had been on the sidelines now felt the change in the air. They started to shout encouragement, their voices mixing in a chorus of support. "Let us go, Jake!" Tyler yelled, regaining his footing, fists raised determinedly. Sarah stood alongside him, her eyes blazing with newfound courage. But just as Jake took a step forward, he felt a hard shove from behind. One of the bullies had circled around, seeking to exploit the chaos. Jake stumbled, throwing his hands out to regain balance. Anger flared inside him, a red-hot emotion that pushed him beyond fear. He spun around, fists clenched and ready to fight back. In that dizzying moment, the sounds grew dim, and all he could hear was his own heartbeat. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. It was for Tyler, Sarah, and everyone watching. He had found his resolve in unity. With a sudden rush, he swung his fist and landed a solid hit, knocking the bully back. Cheers erupted from the crowd. Jake's chest puffed with pride. For a moment, everything felt right. But then, his gaze flickered to Tyler as he slipped, another bully launching toward them. "Watch out!" Jake shouted, but before he could react, Tyler was knocked down again, the ground trembling beneath him. Fear rippled through Sarah. She felt sick at the thought of losing what they had just built together. But then, a figure burst forth from within the throng, a younger kid with bright red sneakers. It was Timmy, the smaller boy from their class, desperate and unsure, but with a fierce look in his eyes. "Leave them alone," Timmy shouted, surprising even himself with his loud voice. The nearby kids turned to gasp as his words hung in the air. Jake could hardly believe it. The sight of Timmy standing there, small yet brave, gave him new strength. The crowd watched, rapt and breathless. "Timmy, get back!" Tyler wheezed, but there was a fire in the boy's move that resonated throughout the crowd. "Yeah, Timmy! You're with us!" Jake shouted back, joining the growing force of kids. Could they really all stand together against the bullies? Would they find the strength to fight back, despite the odds? Jake knew they were on the edge of something exciting and terrifying. With Timmy standing in solidarity, the outcome felt uncertain yet hopeful. Would this be the moment that turned the tide for them all? Timmy's shout hung in the air like a spark in the dark. It caught everyone off guard, not just the bullies. Jake could see the confidence flickering in the eyes of his classmates. Maybe, just maybe, they really could stand against these tormentors together. "Come on!" Jake yelled, feeling the pulse of energy around him. He felt invincible, ready to charge forward alongside Timmy and the rest of his friends. With determination bolstering their spirits, they gathered, forming a line of united strength against their adversaries. The bullies, momentarily stunned, glanced at each other, uncertainty creeping into their smug expressions. They had thrived on fear, on division. But now, with this new alliance, everything had shifted. Jake could see Tyler rising once more, his fists raised like a warrior preparing for battle. "Let us show them what we've got." Sarah rallied, her voice strong as she stepped forward, embodying bravery. Timmy stood his ground, shoulders squared, mimicking her fierce stance. It was contagious. Hope spread like wildflowers in spring. Jake felt the weight of expectation press on him. His heart raced. Each beat echoed his desire to protect everyone around him. "Stick together. No one fights alone," he shouted, igniting the camaraderie between them. The crowd cheered in response, a wave of excitement crashing over them. In synchrony, they advanced. One of the bullies, emboldened by his friends, tried to charge at Timmy. Jake saw it happen in slow motion. Time seemed to stretch as he calculated his move. With a burst of speed, he stepped in front of Timmy, blocking him from harm. The bully crashed into Jake, but Jake stood firm, grounding himself against the impact. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath as they processed the scene. Fear flickered in Jake's mind, but it was quickly eclipsed by the rush of adrenaline. Timing and determination were on his side. He returned the punch, feeling the satisfaction of a hard-earned hit. The bully stumbled back, shock and confusion lining his face. "Get him!" Sarah shouted, her voice amplifying the momentum. The kid surged forward, letting out a battle cry that echoed through the playground. It was nothing short of magnificent. The fear that had once paralyzed them dissolved into a fierce resolve. Amidst the flurry of excitement, Jake caught sight of Tyler, who had found his footing again. "Keep up!" Tyler yelled, rallying his friends forward. They pushed together, a wave of youthful defiance against the bullying tide. But just as hope surged, the tension shifted. Their initial victory buzz faltered as Jake noticed a lingering group of bullies huddling together whispering. Something was brewing, another plan, a last-ditch effort to regain control. "What are they up to?" Sarah muttered, her smile wavering. The energy in the crowd shifted, uncertainty puncturing their newfound confidence. Jake focused on the enemy, determination igniting again in the pit of his stomach. "We won T back down," he said firmly, voice steady despite the flutter of trepidation in his heart. "Together, we can handle anything they throw at us." But just then, the lead bully stepped forward with a menacing grin. "You think this is a game?" he taunted, a cruel edge in his voice. "Let us see how many of you are really willing to fight." Questions swirled in Jake's mind, uncertainty casting shadows over their moment of glory. Did they have what it took to stay united? Would they buckle under the pressure? As the confrontation deepened, a chilling realization settled, and this was only the beginning. How far would they go to stand together? With thoughts racing, Jake braced himself and prepared for whatever was about to unfold. The real challenge lay ahead. The bully's challenge hung in the air like an ominous cloud. Jake felt his heart pound against his chest, a war drum urging him to fight back against the fear that threatened to engulf them all. He glanced at his friends, their faces a mix of fear and determination. They were together now, and that gave him strength. "What are you waiting for?" Tyler shouted, stepping up beside Jake, his stance fierce. "We're not afraid of you." The lead bully's grin only widened, revealing his crooked teeth. "Let us see how brave you are," he sneered. Suddenly, he motioned to his friends, and they shifted, tightening their circle. Jake's gut clenched. They were regrouping, and this moment felt pivotal. "Stay sharp," Jake warned, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "We've got to be ready." The crowd murmured, their excitement now tinged with nervous energy. Jake could sense their collective breath quicken. Would they stay united, or would the fear creep back in? As if reading his mind, Sarah stepped forward again, her eyes ablaze with resolve. "Remember, we're in this together. This isn't just about fighting them. It's about standing up for ourselves." Her words struck a chord, resonating through the group. Jake saw sparks of courage ignite in his friends' eyes. They weren't alone. They were a force. "Yeah," Timmy chimed in, voice rising above the murmurs. "They can't take us all down." Encouraged, the energy shifted back in their favor. With a collective inhale, the group squared their shoulders, forming a barrier of hope. The lead bully, unfazed, stepped closer, poking his finger at Jake's chest. "You think you're tough? You're just a bunch of pathetic kids playing hero." Jake's blood boiled. He stepped forward, challenging him. "And you're just afraid? Afraid of losing your grip on us? You need to make others feel weak to feel strong. That is not brave." Whispers erupted in the crowd. Jake could see some of the kids nodding, realizing that this was just about physical strength, but also about the strength of their spirits, their unity. "Fight us then," Sarah shouted defiantly, igniting their shared courage. "We won't back down. We'll be here every time you try to bully us." Just then, the lead bully hesitated, confusion flickering across his face as he realized they were no longer cowering. The bond between the kids had transformed into a shield, protecting them from the fear that had defined so many of their days. But the moment was delicate, the energy palpable. Jake could sense the lead bully's friends shifting uneasily, their confidence cracking. If they could just hold this moment, and then, out of nowhere, the lead bully shouted, "Enough of this nonsense. Get them." With a surge of motion, the bullies charged in unison. Panic rippled through the crowd. Jake felt adrenaline course through him. "Stick together," he commanded, his voice booming over the chaos. He locked eyes with Tyler, Sarah, and Timmy, knowing they had to stand firm. As they braced for the impact, fear and determination intertwined. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline rise, mingling with the courage that had ignited in each of them. Moments of uncertainty blurred with adrenaline as the first clash erupted. Jake instinctively moved to protect Timmy and the others, heart racing in sync with the battle cries around him. But in the midst of the chaos, amidst punches and shouts, Jake couldn't shake a nagging feeling that they were stepping into something more profound than a mere scuffle. Was this a battle for their pride, or a fight for something bigger? As he swung back at a charging figure, the question echoed in his head, growing louder with each clash. What would victory look like? Would they become more than just a united front? As the crowd erupted into mayhem, tension thick in the air, Jake prepared to face whatever lay ahead. For this fight was only the beginning of their journey together. What awaited them at the end of this confrontation? The chaos swirled around them, like a massive storm waiting to unleash its fury. Jake felt the adrenaline pumping along with the fear, but amidst that whirlwind, a flicker of clarity shone through. This moment was more than just a fight. It was a battle for their sense of belonging, their right to stand tall. "We're moving together," he shouted, adrenaline racing through him like fire. Tyler and Timmy surged beside him, their determination evident. The bullies charged, and for a moment, Jake's instincts kicked in. With each punch thrown and every shove exchanged, they began to push back, knowing they had a community rallying behind them. The support surged like a tidal wave, lifting their spirits as well as their fists. "Keep it focused," Sarah shouted, her voice a beacon cutting through the clamor. She had stepped from the periphery into their ranks, embodying the fierce spirit of a mother, a protector, and a warrior. Her confidence reached them all, igniting something deep within the kids. With a primal roar, Jake punched again, this time connecting with a satisfying thud. The bully staggered, surprise painting his features. Jake felt invigorated, the victory pulsing in his veins. "Together!" he yelled again, his voice steadying the ship as they regrouped and faced their oppressors. As one, the crowd erupted into cries of encouragement, electric in their support. "You got this!" a voice called from somewhere behind Sarah. How wonderful it was, thought Jake, to not fight alone. He could see the fear on some of the bullies' faces now, a crack in the facade of their bravado. Suddenly, one of the bullies broke rank, fear creeping in. "This isn't worth it," he exclaimed, as if realizing the weight of the numbers against them. The others hesitated, glancing at their leader, who was visibly rattled. "What is the matter? You scared?" Jake called, his voice charged with newfound strength. The tide had shifted. The bullies, now whispering, clearly lost their swagger, that false confidence slipping through their fingers just as it had before. "Let us go," the lead bully muttered, stepping back. And just like that, the flickering flame of fear spread among them, compelling their retreat. The moment felt surreal, suspended, as the tension weighed heavily in the air until a wave of cheers cascaded around them. "We did it!" Tyler shouted, eyes gleaming with hope. Jake felt his heart thump loudly in his chest, mingling with echoes of laughter and shouts of triumph. But it wasn't just victory over the bullies. It was a triumph of spirit, the community bond that surged life back into all of them. Amidst the swirling emotions, Sarah pulled Jake into a tight embrace, joy spilling from her eyes. "You were incredible, my brave boy," she explained, squeezing him tightly. "Thanks, Mom," Jake replied, the sound of her voice calming the storm inside him. This battle had made him stronger, not just as an athlete but as a friend, a son, and a fighter. And as he turned to face his friends, something remarkable crystallized within him. They were all titans now, built from each other as support and love. As the crowd began to disperse, laughter bubbled up once more, filling the air with joy. In that moment of celebration, Jake felt a connection to everyone around him. They had fought not just for themselves, but for each other, for what it meant to stand together against adversity. "Let us keep running," he exclaimed, excitement bubbling over. As they began to jog together across the playground, the world around them blurred out. They were free from fear, from doubt, from labels. The promise of tomorrow shimmered ahead, full of opportunities and challenges waiting to be embraced. With his heart full and his spirit radiant, Jake realized that this journey wasn't just about racing anymore. It was about finding strength in vulnerability and forming bonds that would last a lifetime. And just like that, they ran into the sunset together, a vibrant tapestry woven from resilience, laughter, and a community that would always have their backs. And as they disappeared into the horizon, the promise of hope expanded before them, an adventure only beginning now. This is the moment for you. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. We need your support. Don't wait not even 1 second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending, because true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel. Let's lift each other up.